like wire. We call wireframe wire.
Chill. Welcome to Friday, November 10th, everybody, to VFX and Chill. I am Seth, and with me, as always, is my good pal, Hashi. Hashi, how are you? Hashi? Oh, no. Oh, I wish I had a technical difficulties thing to cut to real fast, as if Hashi were dead. No, he's alive. He is with us. He is speaking in the chat. But he's just sick today, so he's out. So he sent Homer in his steed. Yes, there he is. Sorry I can't be in person today, folks, but my digital ghost will haunt the live chat. Ooh, speaking of live chat, as always present in the live chat, is our best friend, Michael. Hey, buddy.
Hello. You know, we used to have a technical difficulties drop we could use for situations when we needed them.
We did, but nothing ever went wrong, so I got rid of it.
Nothing ever went wrong after we made it. Yeah, it's a pity.
We literally
we got so many drops for so many
things.
Show
literally broke down last week, so I guess I could have brought it back. I don't like wasting time on this show before we get to our guests because we always have really cool guests, and then this is no exception. Returning guests. This is a 3-4 timer, I think. Here, please welcome our good friend from Perception, Doug Appleton. Hello, Doug. How are you, buddy?
Hello. Hi.
I love the blue beanie. We talked about this a little bit ahead of the show. It actually is wonderful, and it complements our color palette of the show this week very nicely.
It does, yeah. It's what is it? It's the season of blue beanie for me. Trying new things.
Not the blue beanie. Not the blue beanie, but like proper noun blue beanie. The season of blue beanie.
Yes, the season of blue beanie. TM. Patent.
Some people spice their pumpkins. You blew the beanies.
Nope.
Nope.
Damn it, Michael!
So early already. We're already pulling that drop.
Already there.
Doug, you've been on the show 1,000 times, and we love it, and that's why we're changing it to VFX and Doug. And I would like usually you come on here and you're showing us in title sequences for movies, often Marvel movies or TV shows that you guys have worked on. This week is a little bit different. Talk to me about what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about today Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 5.
And that's the one that Julie Taymor did, right? That's the...
No, so that's Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Copy.
The early 2000s hit Broadway musical.
And by hit, you mean smashed into by a dump truck.
Yes, and hit onto the stage. Did anyone get seriously injured during that? I don't think anyone got seriously injured.
I heard they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Maybe they did.
We'll find out on today's show. That's our investigative. Today's an investigative show into Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. But you did not do the end titles for Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, the live stage show. You did do them for the new PlayStation 5 Spider-Man 2, which has been out for a couple weeks now and is getting huge rave reviews and rules. Hashi would like to know, he is in the chat haunting us. The guy can't just be sick. Do I have to watch Spider-Man 1 on PlayStations 1 through 4 to understand this one?
No, you do not. It would help if you read the first 300 issues. No. I don't think, let's take it as a serious question. There is story from the first two games.
Yeah.
But you can probably go in blind and just...
I'm sorry, hang on. The first two games, I thought this one was Spider-Man 2.
Sorry, so there's Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4, and then they did a spin-off, Miles Morales. So they did a Spider-Man game, a Miles Morales game. This one is a sequel to the Spider-Man game, but technically also a sequel to the Miles Morales game.
It's a
double sequel. Two sequels for the price of one.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a little confusing.
Not in a post MCU universe. We're completely. We understand that sequels have many sequels in between.
I think it's because the Miles Morales game was technically not a full new game. But I
This
still
is
played that
making
game
things
for like
so much clearer for me. Thank
100
you.
hours. It was like a step above DLC. It was like the same map, the same mechanics, but you get to play as Miles Morales, and he has like a 10-hour story instead of a 20-hour story, whatever it is.
You can tell on Michael's face he cares so much.
Well, Michael, just get yourself a PlayStation 5. Get yourself Miles Morales and Spider-Man Remastered. Yeah.
My kids have played it.
Doug, I really want to talk about these titles. These are really cool. Do you have them though to share, right? Because these are special and still somewhat proprietary.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can go on the internet and find it.
What is the internet?
It was really cool. Like the first few days of it coming out, we saw people on like Reddit taking screenshots and making textless versions of it and everything.
Really?
Yeah, which is super cool. Well, I think it's super cool. I'm sure there's people who are probably not excited about them ripping the titles and putting them on the internet.
You don't speak on behalf of the copyright holders.
Yes, I speak on behalf of myself. I think it was really cool. Let me. You guys see this?
I do, and everyone else will shortly.
Am I sharing with sound? That's going to be the trick.
Do you want to share with sound or no?
I don't have to. You guys don't. We can talk over it. That's fine.
If you play with sound, I can control the levels. Or no, I can't actually. So
can you hear sound?
I cannot hear sound.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I'm also deaf. I don't know how I run this show.
Whoever did the music for it is crying right now.
Yeah, right.
You don't need the sound for this.
Look at all these people. This is, am I correct in reading the time code? This is a 5 or 6 minute long sequence.
Yeah, it's about a little over 5 minutes. There's like 800 names in this thing, and I wish that was an exaggeration, but it's not. There's like 800 names in this thing. So yeah, it's a lot.
Did you hand animate every single one of these, or did you use Essential Properties in After Effects?
We did not hand animate them because we are not crazy people. We're not insane like that. No, we brought on this guy, Zach Lovett. I hope I'm getting his name right. I'm going to go look that up.
You are, and he's awesome. He's a friend of mine. I love him.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Zach was hugely instrumental in this thing. Oh, I think I need to stop playing this because I was told I can't play the full thing. So I'll stop playing. We can pause on a frame. But yeah, we brought on Zach Lovett to help us out with this thing. Because it's 800 names, like, usually there's like 30-ish names. If a name gets spelled wrong, whatever, just go in, change the name. In this, like, if we get an update 500 names in, that's going to mess up the next, 300-400 names. So Zach helped us and scripted this cool thing where we could have all the names in like an Excel document and just update it there, and it would automatic, like, dynamically update every shot.
That is his specialty is building amazing technical rigs for huge amounts of data to look pretty. That's his thing. He's great at it.
Michael, can you share a link to Zach's stuff in the chat?
Not really. Most of his stuff is so the thing is most of his stuff is building technically things that other people then make pretty.
Oh, okay.
But I can say if you animate in After Effects at all, his script Flow, or his extension, Flow, makes dealing with animation curves way easier. It's probably one of my most used extensions in After Effects. Nice. So go to AE Scripts Flow. Excellent.
Yeah, it was an absolute lifesaver on this, because the way these things always work is late in the game you get a credit update, you get someone added, someone removed, a name spelled wrong or something, and this just really allowed us to not have to worry about like, oh god, we gotta do this all. We did have to place everything by hand, but we did that once, and then kind of the script took over updating names, and even so far as like later on in the sequence, can I find a thing? We have like later on in the sequence you get main titles like main cast, and so it even broke up like main cast or like Marvel marketing, and you could kind of split the whole thing. So
I love the coloring you've got on the names, like it's not all just like title one color, name another color. Like
it's cool. It looks like a ramp that's
cool
spread
gradients
across
over some of them. Like it's really nice.
Yeah, so we had a gradient in there, and some of them were more subtle than others. But you can see like here, we had a gradient that complemented the colors that are in the shot so that it wasn't just one flat kind of thing, you know. Cool. Typically on these, we want to do something with the type, but when we have 800 something names, like we can't really go too crazy with how custom the type is. Otherwise, that's going to be no fun for anyone when we update this stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, we found our little ways like using the color or the animation. We had one main animation that this script like referenced and updated through everything.
Well, looking at this frame right here, Mike, what kind of assets were turned over to you, and what were your choices to do with them? If someone's never played the game, how different is this from what the game is? What did you guys bring to it? Talk about that.
Yeah, so in terms of assets that were delivered to us was, you know, nearly everything. Fortunately, it's a video game, so everything is modeled, everything is rigged, and textured. So they handed all of that over to us, everything that we needed. They gave to us. And, you know, there's moments where like we've built our own things to kind of supplement, but you know, like this drone, Miles over here, all of those assets were provided to us. They were all textured in or created, rigged, textured in Maya, but because I know not a Maya talk.
We can talk about Maya. We're not scared of other tools. We can talk about anything.
But we then took that, so we didn't rebuild the rigs because we considered that at some point. Like, okay, let's grab their models, re-rig everything, let's do it all in Cinema. And then at some point we were like, oh, well, that's ridiculous. Let's just use Maya to pose these things and then export it into Cinema where we're more comfortable.
Oh, smart.
So that was our pipeline as we got assets from them. You know, we had to not necessarily re-rig, but kind of tweak a little bit because there's proprietary rigs and all sorts of stuff. So we had to do some fine tuning to work with what we had. And then we exported that out as an Alembic file or several Alembic files and brought that into Cinema where we did everything else.
I have a lot of questions about the look on this, by the way.
Me too. I'm curious about how much of the styling and embellishment was you guys and where you got that inspiration from.
Yeah, so early on it was very clear to us and the team at Insomniac and and PlayStation Studios that we didn't want this to look like the game because you're going to play this game for 20, 30 something hours. When this starts, we don't want people to be like, oh, look, a cutscene, and then, oh, no, there's credits on it, right? So we didn't want it to be the game, but we're also very familiar with Spider-Verse, and that is like a wildly different aesthetic, and we didn't want it to be Spider-Verse. We kind of wanted it to be its own thing, and as we were talking to, Insomniac and PlayStation, they came to us with this general idea of the theme of this thing being infestation, transformation, liberation. These three key ideas, right? Because Venom is the main bad guy in this.
Oh, nice.
So they wanted to play up this idea of the infestation being like covered in the symbiote. The transformation is kind of fighting against it. And the liberation is when you finally have broken free of the symbiote. And so that was the broad, like we like these themes, these ideas. And as we were putting our frames together and thinking about what that could mean, we kind of landed on this idea of representing sort of Venom and the infestation versus, the good guys and the liberation with different types of paint styles. So if we go to somewhere...
That was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Let's try and I'm going to go through... Where can I find a Venom? Where are you, Venom? Somewhere over here somewhere.
Where are you, Venom?
Yeah. But Venom is like more inky and like ink and water kind of look. You can kind of see it here. We have like ink and water kind of look, but then our heroes have more like paint splat looks.
Oh, nice.
And that's also why the sequence is,
oil and water. Got it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like we have a black background with not a lot of color, and then sometimes we have white, and so we're playing with this idea of like this ink versus paint versus black and white versus good and evil, and like these two ideas kind of next to each other throughout the entire sequence. And so the look kind of evolved from there.
Where did the yellow come from? Because I know that for me, like Spider-Man I'm curious if there's a character it came from, or if there's a story point that the yellow came from.
Yeah, so Miles in this has these like Venom powers, and So I say Venom. This is where it gets confusing.
It's
Miles has
symbiote powers, right?
Yeah. Miles has electricity powers, and his electricity powers are this like orange yellow color.
Yeah. Okay.
But they call it in the comics. It's Venom power because some spiders have venom. Didn't know that. I guess it gets a little confusing.
Oh, interesting. So it's not the character Venom. It is a spider-centric reference.
Yes.
Okay.
But then Venom is also in the game. So then when we talk about it, it's like, all right, electricity powers versus Venom powers because he doesn't have Venom powers.
Michael, you're keeping up, right?
Yeah. Michael, you got this?
I'm aware that Miles has electricity powers because I've seen the Spider-Verse movies. So I'm good on that part.
Yeah.
I'm following.
All right.
I think it's
Michael's actively playing the game right now.
Yeah.
I gotta know what we're talking about. No, did you render in like with special OSL shaders and Redshift, or how did you get this kind of flat look you've got going on here?
I don't know if it's going to give away too much, guys. But I think I've expressed on this very show that one of my favorite things is to use the oldest, cheapest effects in After Effects to get a really cool look.
Woo!
So we have a very lovely render coming out of Redshift, but because we had this style, we didn't have to get too crazy with it. But a bulk of this effect is, I believe, the cartoon filter in After Effects.
What? People use that?
Oh yeah, baby. And I can't take all the credit. All the credit for it. We had our incredible art director on this was Steve Saval, who helped kind of develop this look. He was with us from the early pitches into the final thing, and he kind of helped with this. And Taylor Yant was one of our other lead artists.
Yeah, I know Taylor. Taylor rules.
Yeah, they kind of helped develop what this look is, but it's at the end of the day, it's nothing too crazy. We're rendering 32-bit EXRs, so we're using levels to kind of crunch and get the shadows on our renders. It's a handful of passes, really. So it's nothing too crazy to kind of come up with this look, and this evolved throughout the course of this. We always knew we didn't want it to look like the game, but the earlier sequence maybe had a little more shading to it. And then as we're kind of building this thing, we're finding the voice of what this wants to be.
How much did and this is actually kind of a larger question, this quantity of, this is like a 5-minute sequence, which that feels different. I don't feel like your movie title sequences are 5 minutes long.
No, they're usually about 2.5 minutes and 30 to 35 names. And this is about 5.5 minutes and 800 names.
800 names. So how, yeah. So I'm curious if in this case and in any case, quantity ever started to influence the amount of started to influence the style in a way that kept things more efficient for you?
Not so much the style, but in kind of how we approached building the whole thing. One of the early ideas I presented to the team, because we, at 5.5 minutes, we can't do 100 shots in this thing to fill it out, right? That'd be insane to do in the time we had, because we don't have significantly more time than we normally have on these things. So each one of these is like a little vignette. I think this is a good example of that, where we have one setup, right? The setup is Spider-Man and Miles, and you can see we're looking at his hand, and we wanted every camera move to add a little bit more information to the story. And when I pitched it to them, I pitched it to the team at Insomniac Marvel as I called it the hot dog scenario, which will make sense, because before we had anything,
we had a hot dog.
I pitched it as we had hot dogs. I pitched it as this idea of, imagine we're looking at a hot dog and we pull the camera back and we see someone reaching for the hot dog. And they're like, oh, they dropped their hot dog, right? We pull back further, someone's pushing that person. Oh, they've been pushed. They didn't drop their hot dog. We push back further. There's a dog about to eat the hot dog. And so every camera move kind of adds a little bit of detail to the story and changes that narrative a little bit.
That's crazy smart. I love that.
And so we wanted to do something like that because that allowed us to do our usual, let's say, 30 shots. I don't remember exactly how many setups we had in this. Let's say usual 30 setups, and we put the camera in a spot that kind of changes the story. And so this one, we see Spider-Man's hand, and then the camera pulls back, and now, it's Spider-Man and Miles. and then the camera rotates around, and it's Spider-Man and Miles facing off against Sandman. And so it's one scene. In that one scene, we're getting 3 shots out of it.
And the 3 shots mean different things. That's crazy smart. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's not as intuitive as you would think it would be. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. I love that idea.
Yeah, and like, you see something like this guy with a gun, and you're like, what's that? And then, we pull back and he's aiming at, the skull, but then we pull back and he's aiming at Kraven. And, like, if you play the game, it makes sense.
Why is that idiot shooting skulls? And then okay.
Yeah, right? What's happening?
I love the idea of using the camera as a storytelling device, because it's part of the tool of a filmmaker is to have a camera. I remember watching some video essay about comedy and how a lot of modern comedy movies don't use the camera to do any jokes. It's just, here's people saying funny things or doing funny things, but just in this square box, compared to like a movie like Hot Fuzz, which uses camera movement and characters coming in and out of frame to add to the comedy. But in this case, you're doing it for dramatic effect as well. We've got this tool. It's not just the words that are being said and the images that are on the screen, but how they move in and out of frame that can help tell the story. That is really, really smart.
Yeah, and it honestly, it helped us to be able to do a 5.5 minute long sequence and not, put 90 something unique scenes in it, like you might have on a title sequence for like, every shot, like every character gets their own card or something. This one we also
you're limiting the setups in a really smart way.
Yeah. That was the intent anyway. And then we have shots like this that are just like a cool lingering shot at, Spider-Man on a building. That's just cool,
And so all of these, by the way, I think we talked about this, but all of these, you've posed the models, but you're not really animating the models across any of these, right? That also saves you.
Now it's intentional too that, we want to try and find ways that their poses feel very dynamic. Without animating Venom, like you get this incredibly dynamic pose of him jumping out of a building, and some of the ink and things animate around him, but the characters themselves didn't animate because we're also we're not doing 5.5 minutes of character animation, and even just knowing our own limitations, like. I don't think, as much as I love all the work that we do, like we're not going to animate 5.5 minutes to the quality that Insomniac is animating the game, and then that's also part of it too. Like we don't want it to be a letdown from the game itself. We want this to be, stand side to side with what the game is presenting people.
Totally, and that's and you run into that with feature end titles too. Like I know you think of a movie like Into the Spider-Verse. I don't remember who did. You guys didn't do those titles. That was
No, we did Spider-Verse.
I don't remember who did that, but he's similar.
James Ramirez did them.
You've got
with a team.
Similar issue there is that you've got a property or a piece of work that is like an artistic accomplishment unto itself. And so how do you then represent it artistically at the end in a way that doesn't feel like it's just getting close enough, or like how do you make something that's completely different and you find a way to represent it? Yes, I'm saying the same words over and over to repeat the things you've already said, but yeah. Wait, let's hang on there. I want to see those people's names.
Yeah. So I wanted to pull these up. I mean to do it at this moment. But yeah, so I just want to this is everyone who worked on the team. We had an incredible team on this as we're talking about posing and animation. We had some great people in here. So, Joshua Merck and Yaz Kiyama they were our Maya animators. They helped set that stuff up. Like I said, Steve was our art director on this thing. We started off doing storyboards because this thing is basically we're setting up not essentially gags, but these little story beats that once we did storyboards, we probably have a whole other title sequence worth of storyboards. But we had this guy Wes Simpkins do storyboards for us, who's incredible and fast on this stuff, and had the perfect amount of detail of it just needs to be a napkin sketch to get the idea across. Which was awesome. Then we had put an edit together. Our buddy Josh Hamster put this edit together for us. And if you see the two side by side, our final edit's actually pretty close to the original kind of storyboard, rough animatic on this. And then the rest of our team, like I mentioned, Taylor. We had Vivian Amaro, who's a staffer at Perception, but Naki Din, Christian Haberker, another staffer at Perception, kind of helped out at different points to come in and add their flair to this thing. So yeah, we had an incredible team. I kind of, when I look at the team that we had on this, like we couldn't have had a more perfect team to do this thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you're getting quite a few compliments from the chat saying it's tight. You love the color palette.
Oh, awesome.
Now there's an interesting question. There's an interesting question from the chat. Darby Facento is asking, how was the workflow for this compared to a feature film? The same, different? Was a deliverable set up in a certain way? Like, how does this differ from the normal film title sequences? This is a good question.
So the deliverables, surprisingly enough, was we sent them to QuickTimes. Like that was our final deliverable. I mean, we did this whole thing in 4K at 30 frames a second, which, working on film, we're doing 24. You don't always deliver finals at 4K when we're working on film. But this is on PlayStation, which is doing, 4K at 30 frames a second, HDR. So all those things we had to kind of take into account. The actual workflow on this was pretty similar to what we do in the in titles, but just exponentially more because it's longer and more names. So, the biggest difference here was that, we couldn't do kind of what we typically do is we try and tie a card to a character or an actor or, an executive, we always try and tie the cards because when we do this stuff, we think of it as like we're doing it for whoever this is for. Like when we work for Marvel, like we're building this for the writers and the directors and the executives. So we want to make sure the guys we're on the call with, you have a cool card for when we're on this call. So it's just a thing that we like to do. And,
you'll tie a character to them. That's funny. I never realized that.
Yeah, so we'll tie a character to it when we can, not all the time, but when we can, we try and tie a character to the name or an executive. I think it was on Loki just recently coming out. We have a card. I think it's is Kevin's card the one that's making notes on something? Like Kevin Feige's card is someone taking notes. Nice. So we try even in subtle ways try and tie it to them. But on something like this, where we have all these names, we can't tie a specific card to a specific person. So that's a little bit different than what we typically do.
On the other end of the spectrum, it reminds me of the many Harvey Weinstein title cards that exist out there that are of piles of horse crap or literal garbage.
They're careful. Yes, we haven't done any of those. But yeah, they're all sitting around somewhere.
They're all live action. The ones that I'm referring to wouldn't have been.
Yeah, but we try and do it because the people spend a lot of time where one of my favorite things on this is not just seeing the fans take the title sequence and grab stills from it, but on Twitter seeing people who worked on it take a screenshot and be like, oh look, my name's on a really cool card. I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome. Some guys really nice. I designed the costume that's on the card of my name. I'm like, that's so cool. It's we try and keep on the people who are making these games.
I love that. Frigby asked, did you use AOVs out of Cinema 4D? If so, which ones and why?
Yes, we did. I'm trying to remember what we had. So, we had just your normal beauty pass. We used depth. I think we have a bump normals pass that we're using to kind of do a little bit of relighting if you want to adjust shadows, matte passes, but not much more. We didn't really need to break out, reflections and refraction and all sorts of stuff because it's a pretty flat style. So I think at the end of the day, we maybe only used 2 or 3 additional AOVs, but I could be wrong about that. But it's pretty limited. It's nothing too crazy.
Sorry, I was was writing a reminder to myself based on something you said.
I need to learn what AOVs are.
No, I did learn what AOVs were too recently. So I do know what they are, but that would be funny if I was just Googling what are AOVs.
Well, I mean, one of the really cool things about Redshift is you can actually output extremely arbitrary, like you can put anything out as an AOV, which is really kind of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of
super
cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, we fortunately didn't have to do any of that. We didn't have to get too.
Yeah, because your style wasn't like all reflective and shimmery. It was all like painterly and splattery and flat. But like what I find really interesting is like you don't really think about it, but those images and animations in that title sequence are so dynamic, but the design is so flat. But it doesn't feel flat. Like it's crazy how you're able to get it to just feel like so much depth and dimension when it's this very flat painterly style.
Yeah, I'm curious, like Doug, if you had to pick a project that Perception's done that is like on the other end of the spectrum in terms of complexity, because this one feels to me fairly simple compared, like in a good way, like compared to what we often see from you guys. What would be the other end of the spectrum? What's maybe the most complex sequence you guys have done?
WandaVision, pretty complex, right? That's all redshift and like millions of little RGB pixels floating around, building whatever we're building, destroying a whole neighborhood.
Yeah, that sequence rules.
Yeah, that one's probably pretty complex. What else we got? Like Shang-Chi's all water stuff, and that was kind of crazy. I'm
curious, like if you like. Do you now want to do any more of these slightly more straight, like simple? I mean, I say simple. There's a lot of complexities going on behind this. It's deceptively simple. I'm curious if I'm curious if you have a preference, if you like diving into the more complex ones, or if you like sticking to the simpler ones.
I think it depends. It's trying to do what's right for the project. I mean, arguably one of the simplest title sequences we've ever done was for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That is so 2 minutes of watching cloth burn. And, we shot it. We went out to a field, burnt some cloth, and like that's your sequence. And that is arguably one of the simplest things. I mean, there's a little more to it than that. We have a few shots that have like the Black Panther suit behind the cloth, but on the whole, like it's largely just an editorial piece. And that I found very exciting to do that as well. I just thought it was really cool of Marvel to have the confidence to take this big summer blockbuster. Like, you know what? Actually, was it summer? I think that may have been a November movie. I don't remember when that came out. But this big blockbuster movie, like we're going to end it with just 2.5 minutes of watching cloth burn and let the audience just kind of sit. I
love when you guys go shoot stuff for these. Like I know Loki was that where you guys. It's a bunch of footage. I love that it's so it's seemingly antithetical to what people might have come to expect from you guys. That Black Panther sequence is gorgeous. I
thank you.
Very specifically remember that sequence, and it's so perfect for the tone that movie ends on. That's actually a question. I don't know if we've ever asked you this. How much of the movie do you guys get to see before you pitch your ideas for this stuff?
Yeah, and that's actually great to also, how is this game different than the movies that we usually do? The movies, typically we get to watch the movie, we get to watch the TV show. I think there's a handful that we didn't get to, we didn't get to watch Endgame, but we've gotten to watch everything else. And we can watch the movie in 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it is. Like we can know everything there is to know about the thing.
God, how long did it take to play this game?
And this game is 20, 30 hours to play the game. And once you do that, you still might not have seen everything there is.
Do you hand that off to an intern? Like first day of work, you're going to play all of Spider-Man 2?
No, I'd be like, guys, I got to play Spider-Man 2. Intern, you do my job. I have to play Spider-Man 2 today. But it would be impossible for us to play this whole game, see everything there is to see with the game, and then build a title sequence based on that. That's the time it would take to do that. So Insomniac was great. They sent us a ton of cinematics, and then after we kind of ingested that, they put us in touch with their narrative team, and we got to talk to their narrative director and be like, hey, you sent this shot. what's going on here? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And then we were on a call with them for like 2 hours just talking about like, oh, well, this happens because X, Y, and Z leads up to that, and then this happens after that.
Oh,
and so we got a pretty good sense of things that we would need to have in this.
Yeah.
And even doing that, like we put some stuff in here, and they'd come back and go, oh, actually that's a side quest, and like people might beat the game and actually not even meet that character. So like let's take that out of them. Like, oh, cool. Like we'll take that out. And so that was an interesting process too, of not being able to see the whole thing first, because also when we started, like the game wasn't done when we started it. It's not like, a movie where it's unfinished, they can just like send us a file and we can watch the unfinished thing. Like this isn't done. I can't just load up this unfinished game on my PlayStation and play it. Like I don't have.
That was my next question was, what is the version of that in game? Like now that I think about it, I've never seen it. Like, are you, like, I assume there's got to be versions of playing with like.
Yeah, they have like no text. Like we saw some cinematics that had like no textures or no animation, right? It's just like a pose character is kind of sliding around.
But like, you can't play that way, can you?
I guess not. I mean, I guess you could just slide around the world and, in the A pose. It's a real interesting game. But so it wasn't even in a state, not that like they didn't have it, but like it wasn't available in a way to like to give to us that we could play. Because like we don't have a developer build of a PlayStation that we could like launch this game on that's not, ready to get put on my consumer PlayStation. So it was a lot of, we get cinematics, they'd talk to us and we'd talk to them and be like, what works, what doesn't work. So that was probably a big difference is, not being able to know everything about the thing.
Are there differences?
Are there differences?
Yeah, go for it, Michael.
I was going to say, Frigby is asking, are the differences between a game studio and a movie studio in terms of what notes they give you when you're working on title sequence?
No, I mean, the teams that like this was a little interesting because usually when we work with a movie studio, it's like it's us and the studio. This is interesting because it was us and Insomniac and Marvel and PlayStation. Like we had three bosses on this thing, right? Because it's Insomniac's game, it's PlayStation's console and their product that they're paying for, and it's Marvel's IP. So it became this interesting of like getting creative notes about something and then getting a note from Marvel being like, oh, Spider-Man wouldn't pose like that. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, let's change that pose a little bit. But it was all kind of in the service of getting the best thing possible. And I think, not to be like, I loved working with Insomniac. They're great. But it was really great working with them because like it was actually the guy that we worked closely with over there, Davison Carvalho. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, incredibly talented guy. He's one of those talented guys who like makes me angry that he's so talented. Because if you follow him at all, he'll like post this beautiful oil painting and then post like the sickest FUI graphics you've ever seen. And you're just like, Davison. But we've worked with Davison in the past, actually on a Spider-Man thing. He helped us in our early concepts for the spider signal on Civil War. Oh, nice. And so now all these years later, we hop on a call. We're like, Davison, you're here. And he's like art director, creative director over there at Insomniac. And so he was our, one of our main points of contact. So we had this like familiarity with each other and this, shared language as we're working through this. And that was probably one of the best things because he could take our stuff and get notes from PlayStation, from Marvel, and then come back and like draw over the frame and be like, hey, they're talking about this thing. I think what they mean is this, and this would be a cool way of doing it. We're like, yeah, thanks. That's great. Instead of getting a note, be like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like, cool enough. I'm like, what does that note mean? That's not a...
Yeah.
But what do you mean,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Whenever we get a note that's like, I don't know, maybe if you made it blue, then I'm like, okay, we've already lost them. Like, let's do something totally new because now we're pulling at straws. But not that we typically get those notes, but like
everybody gets those notes. Everybody gets and gives those notes at some point in time.
I'm sure I've given those terrible notes. Like, I don't know, try like moving it to the left a little bit. And they're like, no, you were right where it was. I'm wrong. And then I apologize.
That's I found the most important feedback I give is, no, you were right. Let's revert to the last version. Like, it's the note I'm giving the most these days, and it tends to be the one. Justin Leduc, listen, Justin, we have a guest on the show today. I want you on your best behavior, please. You're embarrassing us in front of Doug. Just kidding.
What happened? Let me open up the chat. What happened?
He's saying, is Spider-Man a front-end or back-end web developer?
Justin.
Frigby is pointing out that webs do come from the back of the spider. Yes, the spinnerets are on the back end of the spider. But from a more serious question from Visual Media, it's saying, what's the time frame on finishing a project like that? How many people worked on it is answered in front of the screen in front of you, Visual Media.
See, Justin Frigby, this is how adults talk.
What's the time frame? Like, how long did you have to work on this to get that all done?
What did we have? I want to say it was like 4 or 5 months working on this, and some of that includes like early pitching and storyboards and stuff. I want to say like 4.5, 5 months is about what we had. Like, the interesting thing is, like, when we do this for film or TV, like the time to when you've delivered to when it airs is a lot shorter, because like everything's just like, oh, let's just upload it to the theaters and now they can watch their movie. This needed to be done in time to get printed onto a physical disc, and that disc gets manufactured and put into a box and shipped across the world. So like it was interesting going up against that, to like, no, there really is a deadline on this thing. It's not like, oh, we maybe have like an extra week or so. Like, no, they're gonna like make a physical thing and ship it out to everyone, which was interesting. But yeah, it was like 4.5, 5 months, something like that.
4.5, 5 months. That seems.
And Isura Randika from Rabbit Studios is asking, did you draw all of those paint patches from scratch? Like all the splatters and streaks?
No, some of them, I think this one looks like a Photoshop paint splat brush, like the Kyle, Kyle paint brush.
They're all Kyle brushes.
No, we had some of it is Photoshop stuff. Some of it is like stock splashes and stuff that we purchased. A little bit of everything. So it's just brush strokes that we are painting in Photoshop. So it's probably a handful of little column A, little column B.
Nice. There's got to be a lot of freedom in doing these frozen. Justin, love you, Justin. There's a lot of these. There got to be a lot of freedom in doing like these kind of freeze frame. These like this freeze frame style where you can like paint splatter and all this various because I find so often when you're working with stills or you're working with like whatever the term would be for 3D stills where you're moving a camera around, you can add all these great embellishments like the paint splatter and even like dust things and texture, and you don't have to worry about how that looks when people start moving and there's motion. You can just almost treat it like a glorified like Photoshop, like you're photoshopping a still essentially. Like it kind of gives you freedom to get even more stylized.
It really does, and I won't call out which shot, but there is a shot where it is Photoshop tracked on top of a thing to fix some issues that were like, it's not really working, and then go into Photoshop, fix it, track it in 2D space. I'm like, great, it works just fine. No one will ever know.
Fantastic.
And people will continue to not know because I won't say which shot or shots it was.
No, you can't ever tell people. They won't notice until you tell them.
Yeah, and then you really like scrutinize. You're like, oh wait, there's a matte edge here or something. But yeah, we had some moments of that where, because it was a still, that we could go in and like paint on top of it and fix a thing and then track that into 2D space, and try not to get too crazy with it because then things would break. But
speaking of things breaking, I just broke OBS somehow. Let me see.
Uh-oh.
Now you're back. I tried to get rid of Michael in it, and it messed some things up. Michael, are you still there?
Oh, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just a big blue ass now.
Just can't see you.
Yeah. Well, let me hop out and hop back in.
Oh no, Michael's gone. It's like no parents are here now.
Let the kids run free.
Now that Michael's gone, Doug, tell me. His name's still there. Everyone's names are still there. I don't know how this works. He's back.
Hey.
Huzzah.
Well, I was gonna say. Well, before we move on, Doug, is there anything else you want to say about these killer titles from Spider-Man 2, the game, in case people are just tuning in?
Spider-Man 2, the game. Anything else I want to say about it?
Or talk about? Anything that we, as terrible hosts, forgot to talk about or ask you about?
I don't know. I feel like I've been talking about these things since we delivered it, because it's just like it's very exciting for me as someone who grew up playing Insomniac games. You know, like playing the Ratchet and Clanks, I don't know if you played the Resistance game. I thought was awesome. But just growing up playing Insomniac games to then get to play and be a part of this world is like huge, absolutely huge. You can't see in my room, but I have a Spider-Men's up there. I guess that's not really about the titles. It's more about me just being like, I love that I got to do this thing, and it's like wild and blows my mind that we got to be a part of this. But I'm just hugely thankful for the team that we had on this thing.
Speaking of the team, Justin wants to know: did Perception people work mostly at home or far from home?
This man doesn't take warnings at all.
It's nonstop, and I'm here for it. No, they lock us in the office, and there's no way home. All right. We'll be right back.
There's also the dad jokes drop that we could also pull in for this. There's so many possible ways to go.
Doug, it's 12:47. We have an hour and 13 minutes to do whatever the hell we want.
I want to do spider things.
So we were talking about this ahead of time. Doug, you had a fun idea. You were talking about Spidey-sense, specifically Spidey-sense. We were talking about this concept has been explored and imagined and visualized in various different ways across various movies. I'll pull some reference we can get to in a second. But what about this? What drew you to this today?
Spidey-sense. So there's a lot of different ways to do Spidey-sense. I think the Spider-Verse does it a really interesting way, but the movies don't typically do Spidey-sense in a way that's represented in the comics or the games. And I thought it could be cool to take a crack at how we would visualize Spidey-sense. What are some cool, unique ways of doing it? As a longtime diehard Spider-Man fan, just anything to do more Spider-Man things, I'm here for it. But it's just cool. There's a lot of ways to go, but it's this cool blend of the stylized graphic kind of element that you can bring into an otherwise realistic world. And I think it's pretty cool.
And you brought up Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is the first one I think of too, because it's just such a good visualization of it, which because of its graphic nature, it gets to get away with the little ziggy zags. And as I understand it, this is pretty well a good representation of how it's repped in the comics, right?
Yeah, it's usually squiggly lines coming out of his head. Depending on if he's Peter or Spider-Man, they might cut the face in half and put half a spider mask on one side. They do some cool stuff there. And I'll be honest, I haven't read a comic in a few years, which makes me feel very bad. And I still have my Marvel subscription, and because one day I'm going to have time to sit down and read a bunch of comics.
And one day you will, and you'll be fully prepped. You'll have everything.
Yeah, I'll just have all the things. Every weekend I talk to my daughter. I'm like, hey, you want to go to the comic book store? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And then, Saturday, Sunday rolls around. She's like, I don't want to do that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Break my heart.
Well, so I'm curious because, you brought up Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is it's such a good representation of it. I am very curious in a second to hear kind of any ideas you have on what you would do differently. I guess you're talking about on live action footage, or we're talking let's maybe set some ground rules here. Are we talking about live action Spider-Man? Are we talking about animated Spider-Man?
Yes, I'm talking live action Spider-Man. I think I love the MCU Spider-Man movies. I think they're great. One of my disappointments is that they never truly do a Spider-sense in that, right? They talk about the Peter Tingle in Far From Home.
They do, and they show in No Way Home, they do this really great, this is a really great dramatic cinematic way to show it. It's more about dramatically representing like
so they do it in like
feeling.
in this scene there is danger, right? Like the way it's shot feels like there's something dangerous about to happen, but there's no sort of like. Well,
it's actually looking at it. So it does several camera like film school gags in one shot. You do a dolly zoom right at the top, which is a quick way to isolate a character and hone in on their kind of mind space. Then he gets up and the camera moves almost like a snorri cam, like it's attached to him, right?
Yeah, which is fascinating. Now, like, oh, that's a really cool thing.
It's definitely not attached to him, but it's moving as if it is. And then he comes in, and once he stops, we then dolly back. And then
technically, how do you pull that off?
That's a really good operator. I think that's, I don't know. This is probably actually good documentation about this shot, but I would imagine this is just a really good operator who is either working with a Steadicam and they're bringing in like a handheld kind of feel right here as it's moving like a snorri cam. I think it's probably a Steadicam, to be honest, and a talented operator.
Do you think there's any chance they're stabilizing it, they're like stabilizing him in post to kind of.
And then we pull back here, and then we start bringing in cuts as we start bringing the character relationships and who he's talking to, and we think it's about Jamie Foxx. So we kind of hone in on him and the conversation between, and then boom, we get that great reveal. That scene rules. But you're right, it's not necessarily as like visually innovative as this, right?
My favorite Spidey-sense shot from Spider-Verse is when he's like, it just says "watch out" like behind him real big.
Yeah,
such
absolutely.
a good shot.
That's right cool. Before the thing goes flying through the window. I want to see something that's like the way that like Scott Pilgrim treated like motion graphics, where like it's
I love Scott Pilgrim.
Graphics and footage. Like, what does that look like as a Spidey sense? If you were to kind of bring in that. For the more traditional comic book, illustration kind of look, and then put that in real world, and you treat it like it's been shot optically. Like, how does that kind of work as a?
Okay, so funny. I love this idea. I played with this a bunch. Michael, you can dig for an old tutorial of mine. I did a Scott Pilgrim titles one, but I love the way that great reference, Doug. I love the way that the Scott Pilgrim titles look optical in them. They have this color separation. They have this this vignetting on them, and these blurred edges that make them feel dirty. And it's really fun to recreate. You say that, and I'm like, well, now I want to do the watch out to this shot. Like, I want to add Spidey-sense to this shot from Spider-Man 2. Which I know that they did in Spider-Verse. They did their own version of it. But I also don't want to take the fun stuff away from our guest. Do you have but before we go to what we want to do, however, I do want to point out, I did find this clip from YouTube of like the way these old cartoons used to do it. And so many of them are just Spider-Man looks a different direction than he was looking.
Well, there you go. I think the animated series, like the 90s animated series, did like this cool, like inverting the color, or it kind of looks like a negative kind of effect.
Yeah, let's see. Spider-Man and that's in His Amazing Friends. Let's go to the animated series.
This is the animated series. Let's see, what do they do here? There you go. Like they do this kind of crazy kind of thing.
They just grab some like MTV backgrounds and.
Yeah, what is that image that's on there? I guess it's just. Yeah, what is that? It's just.
That's cool. The inside of an esophagus, I think, with Wolverine's shoulder on the other side.
Oh, there you go.
Then we have Spider-Man Unlimited, which goes hardcore.
Yeah, this one I never watched.
This one looks like Andy Samberg's character in Spider-Verse. That's cool.
Yeah. Right, like that looks like Spider-sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. This is what all spiders do.
Yeah, they have that kind of they get those anime lines, and then they freak out and jump away.
So,
There's a question in the chat, by the way, for when you're having to do stuff for European audiences, like you have or different countries often have to do translations. Do you have to change Miles Morales into Kilometers Morales?
Look, I can mute every one of you. All right.
I love every second of this is my favorite moment.
All right, Doug, what we doing, man? Let's do it. Let's both do it. I'm going to open up After Effects too, but I don't want to do the same thing. So what do you want to do? I've got a bunch of clips I can send you a Dropbox link to if you want to pull from any of these, or if you want to grab stock footage. What's your idea?
Yeah, send me some stuff. So I have a weird setup where I'm on my work machine. So I need to transfer to my work machine. So I'm gonna grab a laptop and transfer to there.
Okay.
But I'll just grab a still image. I'll grab some stock stuff off the internet and start cutting stuff out and make it a thing. But yeah, I want to try and do squigglies, the little squiggly deals, and see if I can throw something together with some squiggles and see what we can do.
I just sent you in the Skype chat, sent you a link to a Dropbox that has just the footage, the clips that I pulled for today's show. It has a bunch of stuff from the Raimi Spider-Mans and a few Garfields.
Oh,
cool. Garfield the cat just randomly has clips from Garfield movies.
Yeah, it's just all Bill Murray as Garfield.
Have you heard the story that Bill Murray, I didn't think I'd be talking about this today, that Bill Murray, when he was sent the script for Garfield, the first one that he was in, it had, I don't remember the name of the first name of this guy, but it's a writer with the last name Cohen. And he was like, oh, it's the Coen brothers. Yeah, I'm in. I'll do this. Signed on, script unread. Gets months later, gets into the booth to start recording, and he's looking at the script and he's like, "This is bad. All of this is bad." And he's like, "Coens wrote this?" And they're like, "No, the Coens didn't write this." And it dawned on him in the booth, "Oh my God, okay, I got to get to work here." It's so funny to me. It's sad, the idea of Bill Murray getting into a booth and realizing the Coen brothers didn't write Garfield.
I mean, it makes me very happy. Maybe they could have. James Gunn wrote
Scooby-Doo.
The first live-action Scooby-Doo, so you never know.
You never know.
I just heard that new Coyote versus Acme movie with John Cena, the Wile E. Coyote movie that got canceled, or not canceled, just James Gunn co-wrote it.
Do you want to know who one of the many people to pitch on that movie was back in 2011? This guy.
Nice. How'd that go?
Terribly. My first real Hollywood pitch. Did it over the phone. Did it at what was close enough to my very young kids' bedtimes. So I put them to bed a little bit early. But when I said that on the call, I forgot it was 2 hours earlier in LA, and to them I looked like a monster putting their kid to bed at 3 o'clock or something. And then my kids immediately woke up the second I started the pitch and got up and started needing stuff from me. And I was the only parent home at the time.
Oh, that's...
The exec I was pitching to had to abruptly jump off the call midway through the pitch and said that his assistant would call me back and hear the rest of the pitch. And then she did 5 minutes later, and I had to finish the pitch with her, and it was excruciating.
That's tough. We've had those. I mean, we've done pitches to people eating salads while running on a treadmill. And can you just stop for a second?
And you nailed it and got the job, right?
Yeah. Oh, I did a pitch to a director who fell asleep on the couch while we were pitching, and everyone else in the room was like, we don't know. And we stopped. Should we just stop, or do you guys want to wake him up, or what do we do here?
Oh my gosh.
And they were all very apologetic, which was nice. But yeah. So these things happen. They happen all the time. Which I don't know if is reassuring or upsetting that, you got a meeting. Let's be there for the meeting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You hear horror stories, and you also hear of like really kind directors who, unfortunately, you just catch them on a day where they are just wasted completely in terms of overworked and.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been on those calls too with the directors. Like this is like the fourth project I'm working on actively, and like I don't have the bandwidth. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Just make it blue.
Yeah, yeah. Just make it blue. Like okay, we'll do it.
So Doug, have you? I know you're switching computers. Are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna transfer stuff to. So I have a computer and that computer there, and then I'll.
Okay, cool. I'll just for the time being, Michael, are you doing stuff with us, or are you just hosting?
I'm currently struggling with one of my internet services has gone out, and so I had to switch to the other one, which means I'm doing everything on the laptop.
Don't struggle.
And, I don't have my desktop with my many screens, so I'm kind of starting to fun dance between things.
You see what happens when Hashi disappears for one show.
It is.
Well, I mean, I am out in the middle of nowhere. Like literally, our neighbors to the north of us are Amish, like horse and buggy stuff. Like I'm out in the middle of nowhere with their internet. But luckily, I have two different options. T-Mobile is our fast, reliable one usually, and then AT&T is the like kind of one. But sometimes when one goes out, I pop over to the other.
Yeah,
fiber is coming. A couple weeks from now, I should have fiber, so I should be good.
Nice.
Finally.
T-Mobile closes the door. Verizon opens a window.
That's Abraham Lincoln said that.
I think so. I think that's how that quote goes.
I'll just keep sharing my screen until your more interesting screen is ready and available.
I don't know if mine's gonna be more interesting. I'm trying to find some good high-res images of Spidey. I can.
Oh, smart. Yeah, because these are not the super high-res clips, but I'm gonna call this one Tobes, and then I'm gonna pull this moment from No Way Home in case I want to play with that one, and we're gonna call that. Tom's. It won't be confusing to have a comp called Tom's and Tobes.
Yeah, that's gonna be that'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think you'll be all right. One of my favorite things in the game. So you guys haven't played the game.
Haven't gotten to it yet. No.
All the suits in the game. My favorite is the Andrew Garfield suit. I played the whole game wearing Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man suit from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
My son has walked me through every suit in the first game, and I'm one of those people that can barely tell the difference. I hate how this makes me sound because I promise I'm cool. I swear I'm cool, Doug. But I cannot tell the difference between the majority of superhero suits I see on screen. I can tell the difference between Spider-Man and Iron Man, of course, but like Spider-Man No Way Home versus Spider-Man Far From Home versus like Spider-Man Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I can't really like if you put them all side by side, I can tell the difference. But when I'm only seeing it on screen,
right?
It's like I don't know, I can't tell the difference, and so I've disappointed my son greatly when he's been like, look, it's the blue suit. And I've been like, yeah, it's red and blue. And he's like, get out of here.
Yeah, just leave. You're like, I hope you still love me.
I know. I know that one's gold.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I'm on the other, I'm like, oh, that's clearly Tom Holland's suit from Homecoming. And then if you look at that one, that's Andrew Garfield's suit from Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is different than the suit he had in the Amazing Spider-Man.
The point here is, Doug, I'm your father and you're my son.
That tracks.
Well, it does track. It makes sense.
Yeah.
What is the aspect ratio going on here? 1920 by 896. We'll say 894. 215. That's weird.
I should have picked a bunch of images before.
No, we don't prep.
Hopping on here.
It's VFX and chill, buddy. You don't dare prep.
Yeah, we're in the and chill part of this. So
yeah, this is the part. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, everyone just relax. Go, grab yourself a drink or something. I just want I'm I know this is old news, but when Google changed their browser so you can't select like certain resolution images, you can only have like small, medium, and large, but you can't do like, give me 4K.
Oh, interesting.
Ruined the way that I
steal imagery.
Images. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to assume that. Let me grab a background image. What do we want? Let's do.
And just for the record, I'm getting hacky, and I'm just going to steal your Scott Pilgrim idea here, but I'm just going to try and mimic Scott Pilgrim as much as possible and not really bring any of my own personal ideas to it.
That's fair.
In hopes that doesn't step on any exploration you might be planning to do. I guarantee whatever we come up with will be different because we're two different people, but I just want to make sure we're not.
What if it's the same exact thing? Like, what if we don't do anything different? I open up my screen and it's that exact shot. It's like, so I'm going to work on this.
That would be the biggest compliment to me in the world. I would walk home. I would start charging more, first off, for anything I do. So the zigzags, I guess I have my iPad ready to draw stuff, but now I'm like, no, I'm going to do this with some shape layers.
Shape layers?
Like a real man.
I know I'm supposed to love shape layers, but I'll be honest, guys.
Doug, here's the thing. I even taught in classes that I taught that shape layers are for no one, that no one uses them. They're bad. They're stupid. They come up only by accident and you don't need them. And then I learned how to use shape layers and they're incredible.
I know this is a me problem. Like I'm fully aware that these are my own shortcomings. And I'm like, I don't like shape layers. I know, I'm aware of that.
I like shape layers a lot more now that the properties panel is in After Effects, where you don't have to go into twirl down heck every time you're dealing with shape layers.
Right.
Like you used to, anytime you wanted to change anything to shape layer, you had to do twirl. But now there's a huge amount of control that just pops right at your fingertips in the properties panel, which is quite beneficial for shape layer action.
Yeah, which is great, and I should use it more. I know.
So I guess I should do what Hashi does really well, and I always do terribly, which is narrate what I'm doing as I do it. Just the bullet points. I've got this clip from Spider-Man 2, Raimi's Spider-Man 2, and I am doing a face track on him because I've got my my preset called SOB which was from the other preset named RBF, just so people understand. And they stand for something really technical. Don't worry about it. This is so that I can more easily track some of these squigglies and stuff to hit around his head. Now that I've got this face track, which again, you can do in After Effects by grabbing an ellipse mask or an ellipse tool, or you can use the pen and just draw like a circle around someone's face. And then with that mask selected, go to the tracker panel, and I went to face tracking detailed features and tracked, and it created these detailed points for me on various points on Tobey Maguire's face. And now my workflow here is to turn that mask off. And then I'm going to just create a decoy.
Spider-Man, turn off the mask.
Spider-Man, turn off the mask. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to draw some decoy zigzag. Oh, I guess I'll just draw a zigzag. I don't know if this is the style I'm going to go for. That's a little shape layer path. I'm going to increase. Let me see if the stroke opacity back up to 100 and the width I'll turn up. And we'll give it a round cap. So we'll put that there for now. That's not what it's going to finally look like, but I think I should be able to drop this SOB preset onto it and say, use the plate. And now I think, if I reposition this, it may not work this way. Now that I think about it, now that I'm watching it. Well, it kind of works. Does something weird with shape layers.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird track.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do... What if I do this? Oh, fun tool that I've been using lately. This is Let me reset my... I've been using Kangaroo by Good Boy Ninja.
Good Boy Ninja.
Which I freaking love. Good Boy Ninja's tools they make. So I've got the shape layer. I'm going to repeat it and rotate it like that. And then I believe I should be able to go to Kangaroo and click it, and it'll keep repeating it on that same rotational pattern. Just super cool. So maybe if I take these, new null object. Now I'm trying to figure out how to make my own little preset work. It's funny when you make these things that are meant to make work,
make life easier, and then
yes, and then you go out of your way to make them work.
I need to mess around more with presets and tools. I don't know. I'm so used to just like brute forcing my way through things that like a tool shows up like, I don't need it. I can do this in 20 steps. Or just let's use a tool.
I totally get it. That's how I am too. But with ChatGPT, we talked about this on the show. Like Hashi and I both have like upped our After Effects scripting game like crazy. I mean, just the existence of this whole complex panel I have over here is evidence of that. Like, I freaking love now with ChatGPT. I can just like, it's not doing all of the work. It's like doing a good portion of the work, and then I get to problem solve in a fun, procrastinative way, and have created all of these cool like buttons and workflows that I'll make for a project, and they won't work for other projects, and then I'll procrastinate working on other projects to try and make the scripts work, and it's fun. Are you sharing your screen? Let me know once you're sharing your screen.
Oh, let me. I can share my screen. Is it going to be interesting? Who knows? I'm just pulling in stills. I'm not going to be quite as ambitious as you are, but I got the still of Spider-Man. I'm going to cut out our buddy Spidey. I'm going to put him on a new background right here. And so I think what I'm going to do with this is try and do like a fake dolly zoom. So I got these two separate layers, and it won't be totally perfect, but let's see, if I'm sharing my screen, can I guess I can't really doodle. Can I doodle on things? Let's see, if I click this. No, that's a reaction. Anyway, I'm going to put, I want to put some kind of graphic squiggles and something on his head, and I think I'm going to play around with like maybe treating that like it's going to distort the background behind him or something, so it's not like a totally in-your-face graphic thing, but a subtle thing will...
Chromatic displace from VFX would be perfect for that.
It would be. That's what I was thinking. I'll be honest. First, I was like, let me do some CC glass on that so I can throw an old crappy effect.
No, this is what Michael's here to do, is to remind us of how you can use Red Giant things to do things when we forget.
Like it just kills me when I see
and Doug,
people
you're
who have
not required to, but
no.
We know we can also
see people who have the tools.
You've proven that you use even more of our tools than we would even expect on.
Here, look, I'll use Roto Brush on this guy, even though I don't really have to.
If it's a still, you should just send it to Photoshop and say select subject and send it back. You can send it there with create reference frame and content to our fill.
But look, I'm already done. Boom. Am I missing a thing? Do I have everything? Let's just make sure I get all the things. Let's get
his right pec is still.
Oh no, I've just made it worse. Oh, here I come in with all my hubris. It's already done. Come on, there we go. Give me. Like if I just did this as a really rough, like garbage matte, I'd be good enough. My current motto is it doesn't need to be good. It just needs to be good enough.
It just needs to be done. You're doing what Hashi does, which is also what serial killers do, which is use rotor brush on a still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, you know. A serial killer.
By the way, so I've just pre-comped, shape layers are what didn't work with. So now I've got these squiggles tracked on.
Shape layers didn't work.
Damn it, shape layers. All right.
What do you use for screen graphics before you used shape layers, Seth? Harvey Facento is curious because they for their FUI stuff, they've always been using shape layers, and then they're curious what you did when you didn't use them.
I am so
Masking
ashamed.
things?
I'm so ashamed of what I'm about to tell you. First, let me tell you what. Well, no, I'll just tell you. I would do something. Oh God, this is gonna hurt so much. I would do something like this. Let's make a new solid. Let's make sure it's white. And then let's draw. Well, here's a couple things I would actually do. One of the things I would do is this kind of thing where I would draw it like an outline and a mask, and then that would be my squiggle. That's the most common thing I would do. Another thing that I would do is layer new solid. Not light. Well, I have a Stream Deck that lets me just push buttons. Why am I doing this? I'll set it to be black, though I don't think I need to. And then let's draw a squiggle on this solid and then just leave it there. And there's a couple things. So you can just say stroke, and you can say on transparent. And then that would be how I would do it. That's a pretty common way. Yep. You could also add 3D stroke, which is a trap code effect, and it automatically then comes up there. I now have a cool.
And it has options for repeating it and making it radial, repeating, and having a bunch of lines all around them. Very handy for some tasks.
Actually, really handy for this actual task right here. You got your Spidey-sense right there. Look at that.
That very task.
So, to answer your question, that. But then I started doing these. Let me see if I can find them. I started doing these story clock animations where I would draw. Here's one. I'll download that, and then I would draw I basically wanted to draw a story clock in the frame and draw like story threads and do all of this stuff with it. And this is when I learned that shape layers friggin' rule for the first time in my whole life. And I can't find them now. Oh, here it is. Doug, what are you doing, man?
Well, I just put a circle around Spider-Man's head, and I used a shape layer so I don't embarrass myself. Or I used a shape layer so I will embarrass myself. But here's my plan, right? So I got my thing. I'm going to animate this guy just kind of, oops, not you. I'm going to animate this guy kind of moving out. And then I'll probably duplicate that a few times and offset it so I can get kind of a radial multiple things kind of going out from his head. And then I also want to do some squiggles, and I'll use that. My plan is to use that kind of as a mat essentially to drive like a chromatic displacement or whatever else other thing I'm going to use. So if I just add a new adjustment layer down here, let's see what this will look like. Let's go with a chromatic. Let's do chromatic displacement on my adjustment layer, set my thing to the shape layer, place amount. All right, so it's centering it. That's fine, we can fix that. And so doing something like this, and that way, once I come in and start animating that thing, that can like displace the background.
Oh, nice.
And see if I can get something fun. With that.
Now you're doing this instead of what's the radio waves tool that Hashi uses all the time?
Oh yeah, I guess that could do something too, right?
I never know how to control that thing though.
Yeah, there's is it radio waves? There's also, is it Wave World?
Wave World's another one. I don't remember what Wave World does. We've done it on the show here, I think. With you.
Yeah, so I guess that guy, that works. Although, why did Okay, there you go. Right, because my roto brush is only on one frame, so when I go here, it's not on more frames. You know what? Here, check out. Let's pre-comp this guy.
This is every way that everybody works. It's nice to see Doug Appleton making the same horrible choices we all make.
Boom. Fixed it.
I missed the horrible choices. My other internet canked out.
Oh, Michael, I'm sorry. It's just pre-comping and rotor brushing and all kinds of things.
Radio waves actually a great way to do that.
It looks cool off the bat.
Yeah, I don't want that on an adjustment layer though. I want that just on a solid.
Yeah.
Well, in case y'all missed it before my internet conked out, I was saying for chromatic displacement to work nicely, you need some sort of gradation. So we want to put a blur on top of whatever effect you're using.
Yeah,
shape layers, radio waves,
Michael, that it's the transition that it pulls its distortion from.
Which is why it works better for a lot of things than After Effects' displacement. Because, for example, if you put After Effects displacement on something and crank up the X and Y, you usually end up getting things going diagonal because it's just pushing things based on the grayscale value in a direction. Right. So it'll push it all one way or the other, whereas chromatic displacement does it based on the gradation. So you can get like circular displacements, which is usually what you want, but not always, but usually.
By the way, shape layers. This is the project that I taught myself how to use shape layers on because
you get a bunch of ideas.
It's all these very simple shapes, but I wanted them to feel hand drawn, so they got rough and edges.
When you lay them out in narrative order,
time posterizing on it.
Picture your story and the clock. Look to the side
I just suddenly discovered, oh my god, with shape layers, I'm doing this like non-destructive work here.
Anything up here you could be building on or paying off.
This is another thing is I would also be able to bring in image files and just work from those.
Poddevices.co.
And then I realized, oh my god, I could just be doing this all with shape layers and have so much control.
Darby says that they're pretty sure they animated your story clock with a shape layer years ago.
They did. I remember he did that. Yeah.
Frigby says they were hand rotoing lines for years before they discovered trim paths.
Yes, trim paths was a big one on that. So what am I going to do now? I've got this. I want to affect these, but now I've pre-comped them. So I guess that's fine. I can modify these in here. Doug, I'm going to go to your screen because you're more interesting.
All right, let's do this. Here we go. Let's put on our chromatic displacement. We're going to, you know what? Let's radio waves, just so we know. All right, I want you on radio waves, effects, and masks. There we go. So soften doesn't need to be that intense. Cool.
Yeah, it does have its own built-in softening, but I like to have more control. Another really fun thing to do is to then distort that somewhat as well, like turbulent displace on your radio. You know what to do. I don't mind telling you things. You know what to do.
Well, yeah, and then you go into the radio wave. You can do turbulent displace on here, but we'll make it tiny because we don't want it to. Although we can go kind of 60s kind of style. That could be cool. And then let's just throw a little expression on here. Is that going to be too fast? No.
It's always the thing. You're always like, is this? I'm always like, do I want times 200 or times 20 or times 400?
Yeah. What do we want?
What's really? I was doing a fun lightning thing the other day, and I ended up with advanced lightning and then 3 different turbulent displaces on top of it because I wanted the lightning to kind of be just a bolt. So I wasn't animating the lightning's conductivity state with advanced lightning After Effects. I just had 3 different turbulent displaces, one big one medium one, and a really tiny one to give the electric edges on it, and which turned out kind of fun. Alonso Perez Yaksik is asking, is this live or a rerun? Well, Alonso, it's a rerun.
No, it is not.
It's no, we're live. We're talking about what major event happened like a month ago that we can talk about. Without getting in trouble, I guess.
We're talking about Kofefe today.
Yeah. We're talking about Harambe.
It's a very current thing that's happening. This is a rerun.
This is current events.
No, this is live.
Doug, that looks friggin' rad, dude.
So cool.
That's cool. I didn't do anything. My machine is like real chugging right now. It's not happy with me. So I don't know what that's about because this is just radio waves, which should be pretty quick.
It's just probably mining Bitcoin in the background.
Yeah, there's something going on in the background. I don't know what's happening. Maybe someone's like rendering on my machine while I'm here.
Daniel says Trim Pass is their FUI career. Indeed.
Trim Pass is, yeah. It's great. Hey, listen, if I use shape layer, that's I don't want to say I'd never use shape layers, but I mean, except I'm kind of with you. I would use like a solid with a mask on it and throw a stroke effect. Like, and now I have a circle because I'm a Neanderthal, and that's what I do.
Or you could use Cinema 4D to make all your lines and just use like Slicer from Rocket Lasso or Mesh Tools from Insidium, and you can get splines based off of your geometry in different really cool ways, which is a really neat. Both of those are really neat tools for FUI stuff because you can, you use all your cool 3D stuff, but you're generating these 2D spliney things and I love both of those tools a lot for this sort of thing.
Michael, I'm trying to do loop out, and it's saying loop out is not a function. What did I do wrong here?
Let me, I don't know. Let me see your screen. What are you looping out?
I don't know. I'm just looping out this shape path animation I've done.
Well, it's too blurry for me to see on this stupid Skype window.
Sorry.
Can you zoom in with what's a Mac way to zoom into a screen real big so we can see things?
This, but I can't like zoom in on the screen. No.
No, Mac has a command to zoom in. Like Windows has the Windows key and plus. Mac has to have a way to zoom in a screen.
Well, until the chat tells me it doesn't exist.
Isn't it just like it's not just a pinch?
I can't. What? Oh, I can zoom in on this. Okay, I can do this. I didn't know that happened in After Effects.
What property are you doing this on?
On a path.
But you can't loop out a path.
Yeah, when you animate the path, if you're animating the path across time.
It doesn't want you to loop out, though.
I know. I don't know why. Maybe it's because...
How could you continue?
Huh?
Are you trying to continue, or...
I'm trying to loop this little beep, 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 beep. Just cycle it. Without copy and pasting, but I guess I'll just friggin' do it. I've never encountered that before. It always just does what I say. It's my privilege in After Effects.
Let's make this.
There, now it's doing what I wanted. That I don't know if I want to do, now that I'm thinking about it. You know what? I think it'd be smarter if...
If yes...
It'd be smarter to animate this if these were just lines instead of squiggles, and I used like radio waves on a...
Or turbulent displays or something.
Or something like that to basically make them... So, let's try this. Let's just do... Get rid of these. Let's do a...
I mean, the cool thing about the squiggles you had there was that they were all the same, and you may be wanting that for stylistic reasons. Whereas if you just want generic waves coming from a head, then you wouldn't want them all to be the same. It just kind of depends on what you're after.
Well, I want them to be similar style, but I don't want them to be all the exact same waves.
Right. Well, there's wiggle paths as an option that you could put after.
There is.
They could put after a repeater. There's turbulent displace you could put just on the layer. But anyway, you would want to put the wiggle paths on after a repeater. And you could put the repeater, make it radial.
Look at that cool thing. That is cool thing. And it's doing this. And
if you change you can make it rounded by changing your
smooth.
Yeah, that right there.
Let's do detail less than. Well, that's weird. It's a little weird.
While you're working on that, Misa Tugan says, "Guys, you're cool. Thanks for Spidey." So there you go.
Oh, you're cool.
They are cool. I agree.
And Walter is asking about the code in the live description. It is not a discount coupon, although you could try it. It's a thing saying we have rights to things, so we don't get copyright struck-ins.
Oh yeah.
And Michael Powlek says their Spidey noodles are tingling. Yeah, it's the Peter tingle.
Peter tingle.
I love that joke.
Now, did the Raimi Spider-Sense, like did they do Goosebumps to show that one off?
They did like mostly sound. There's like whole sequences.
They did sound. They did like a slow motion where he would like look around, or things would kind of slow down around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did like. Let me see.
Ooh, I'm liking the radio waves you've got going on there.
I am too, definitely.
Yeah, I want to break it up a little bit. So I think what I might also do is go on here and just throw on a little fractal noise on this guy.
Ooh, I like it.
And let's less complexity and make you a lot bigger and more contrast.
By the way, here's an example of the Spidey-sense from Raimi. It's mostly like sound here. It's like I hear a laser somewhere. I hear metal being thrown around.
Yeah.
If you do, there's, I think probably, this fight is Spidey-sense.
Oh, yeah, I like that one where his eyes get real big.
Yeah. Go to the beginning of this fight.
Yeah, oh yeah. They go hyper detail, that's right.
Wow, great reflexes.
I'm a superhero.
How many takes did that scene take to get everything to land properly on his tray?
Was it like 100-something takes?
Because high school is you shoot spitwads
100%.
and look like that.
And are all 45 years old.
That guy is so old.
I love this movie so much. My least favorite part of this movie is coming up when he does like a triple flip.
Yep.
Like, just do one flip. Like, what
Just
are you
do
doing?
one.
A triple flip?
Here's the reason he doesn't know his own strength. So he was just trying to jump up and accidentally flipped. Is I think
Michael,
the point
don't
of
you
it.
dare validate this flip.
Sure. But
I mean,
I want to do a cut where he just keeps flipping and everyone stands and watches as he continues. And
no one questions it. Not a single person. Like, I guess the fight's going to start now. Like, no one questions this 16-year-old kid doing a triple backflip standing still.
Let's see if I can loop it right here. So if we go... Oh, wait, I can loop it in After Effects. Let's go... all Spidey-sense scenes. So...
Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted.
All right, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to Doug's screen while I definitely work on normal things.
Yeah, this is a creative process, right? We find it. There you go. So I want to break this up a little bit. Is this gonna play? I don't know why this is chugging so much. You know what would probably help, honestly, if I take this comp and I make it not 5.5 minutes long.
Walter Silva is suggesting something to add to your patterns instead of just fractal noise. You can use the cell pattern effect to have something happen on the displacement as well.
All right, let's throw some cell pattern in here.
I do very much enjoy cell pattern for a number of different reasons. It's a very different kind of organic, loopable stuff in cinema, in After Effects.
Stuff in Maya.
Why are you not doing what I want you to do? Oh, because this can be multiplied. There we go. That's what I want. I didn't want alpha on this anymore, so solid composite.
Solid composite is very very useful tool. Very 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 solid. Very solid.
Does that count as a?
Let's try it.
There.
Solid. There we go. It was one of those moments.
Hello, Vazalevs. Suddenly joined the next on stream watching Toby triple backflip. Yes, that is the kind of that is the kind of show we are having today. No, we're talking.
Oops.
We're talking Spider-Man things because we have Doug, what's your title? Creative director at Perception? Executive?
Chief creative director at Perception.
Chief creative. I knew it was some honorific like that. Chief creative director at Perception, who has worked on a number of Marvel thingies, but today we're specifically talking about the end credits for Spider-Man 2 game out on PlayStation 5 now, but also other Spider-Man fun, and we have gone into making our own Spidey-senses in After Effects.
I think this is getting too subtle now. Ooh.
It's just a black screen.
Yeah, right.
Real
he just
subtle
blacks
filmmaking.
out and wakes up having murdered everyone.
This isn't Moon Knight.
Yeah, right. It's not Moon Knight. You can add a little more or something, but I think that's kind of cool. But let's keep playing with this because I want. Yeah, I don't know if this one is doing much for me.
Now remember, you can turn down the chromaticness of that displacement to have more or less color in the displacement, which is also handy.
Kind of like the display, like how it's like,
And what I really like doing is taking the chroma tint and skewing it one way or the other because it makes it a little less rainbowy and kind of adds a little more interest. But again, it's your effect. I don't know why I keep interjecting.
Actually, if I go this way, we get a little more.
Yeah. More Spidey colors. One of the ways is red and bluey, which I think would kind of go nicely with it.
Yeah, a little more Spidey colors there. I want to put these radio waves a little bit because I think they're too thick. Yeah, a little bit of that. That's what this looks like. I put you up here.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Do I want to do that? Do I want to do that though?
Set it as. Let me think about this for a second.
So I always like a soft light, but since I have the
black on there.
It.
If only there was a way to reference effects in your effect stack without, instead of the whole effect stack at once. Adobe Friends.
What are you talking about? There's a lot of time. Like, I would love to be able to do a composite inside of here. Like, oh, cool, I have a solid composite of fractal noise. Let me grab from like this point here and bring that back on top. Like, I think that would be really cool. So I wouldn't have to like pre-comp a thing to then take that to then like pull it on top. I could just do an entire effect stack that's referencing itself.
I bring this up because I'm talking with some folks in the After Effects team about providing just this sort of functionality. So and they're like, well, what use cases do you have? I'm like, literally thousands.
Yeah, all of the use cases.
But see, the problem is for that sort of functionality to work, it does require quite a bit of refactoring under the hood. So it would take, a significant amount of dev time. And I'd say worth it.
One thing I would love is give me a 32-bit colorama.
Yeah.
I want 32-bit colorama and not with a radial wheel. Give me just like a linear color picker and make it 32 bits, and then I'll be a happy boy.
Adobe, make Doug a happy boy.
Calculations and compound arithmetic are both, neither one of them are 32-bit, is also extremely annoying.
Also, make everything like 50 times better and faster.
Yeah.
Please.
Just do all that stuff.
Do all my stuff.
Just make this software that started to like help editorial people do lower thirds, and now it's been, shoved into our motion graphics world and an essential tool. Just like make that better. All right. So I have nothing interesting going on at the moment. I had this cool thing. So I like that. I think this is cool.
It's very cool.
It's been the same for 20 minutes now, but that's how this goes. That's where we're at.
If you had to leave that where it was and add other elements, what else did you add? Besides his face liquefying.
So one thing I want to do is blend in the effect on the edges of him, so it's not just behind his head, but like the side of his head kind of gets hit a little bit. And I think the way I would want to do that is probably just like roughly going in and, I mean, not practical for in motion, but we're just doing stills here, baby. And mask that out there. That's not working. Oh, because that's not doing anything there. Why not? Okay, right, because all these effects are on there.
You can use, if you want that mask to be affecting the radio waves, you can go into the radio waves effect down on your timeline. So twirl it down to the radio waves effect and hit plus on the compositing options. And that will, right there, and hit plus, and that will make it use that mask to grab it. In theory, depending on what other effects are in your effects stack, that it's causing the problem.
Yeah. Radio waves. Oh, it's set to none. All right.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about those down there. I know you do. But a lot of people don't know they're there. It's quite handy.
I appreciate giving me the benefit of it.
It's very handy. You can use multiple masks for multiple effects. It's and you can pick which mask is doing which thing. It's quite a handy little addition.
Yeah,
also
it's super handy. The only reason I don't tend to use it all the time is when you have a lot, it tends to get a little confusing. Like, all right, what effect is this mask doing? And I know you can like click it, and
you have to like name your masks, or you get lost if it's a complex thing. Rabbit Studios, Suru Randika is asking, is Perception hiring?
We are always looking for people. I was going to mention it here. We are looking for people. I think right now we're starting to look for like mid to senior level motion graphics generalist people. Interested in, this is the tough part, in the New York, New Jersey area. We want people who can actually like come to the office. Not totally a deal breaker.
Wait, is that where you are?
We're in New Jersey. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was born in New Jersey.
What part?
Elizabeth.
No, I'm in Maplewood, New Jersey, and the office is in beautiful Secaucus, New Jersey. It's like one stop from the city. It's like right there on the river. I guess it's not on the river, but it's a little west of Hoboken, Newark. I'll be honest, I moved to New Jersey like a year ago, so I don't really know it very well. Also, this Spidey face that I got is is something.
That's Spider-Man after he was bitten by a non-radioactive spider.
Yeah, it's just
stung by bees all over the face.
But yeah, we're looking for people in the New York, New Jersey area that can come into the office. That would be our ideal person. But yeah, generally mid to senior level generalist motion graphics people. So if y'all know anyone or are someone.
I'm someone, but I don't think I need that job. Thank you, though.
Oh, well, listen, come on in, hang out at the studio, come have fun.
I love fun.
Yeah, I don't live near enough to drive to New Jersey, but if you need some remote work done, once I'm done with this current thing I'm doing.
Once I'm done with this job. Yeah, we always.
No, I do.
I'd love it if Michael and I interpreted this conversation as Doug offering us the job. We're like,
I do.
I'll do it. I will join your team.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk to Max on real quick. That's it. Why is his face all messed up?
What layers are you got going on? Where's the adjustment layer happening?
The adjustment layer is happening up here, and so there's. Ooh. Oh, yeah, it's soften. Okay, so it's the soften that's doing it.
Because it blurs out the size.
So I think I just need to make this a little bit bigger. Oh yeah, not efficient for if I. Oh, that's not. I don't know what's happening, but I'm loving it. Let's see, how does this animate?
I mean, you basically need him rotoed on top of it, and then no city behind.
Well, there we go. No, I think that's what I was going for. I think.
I mean, it looks like his brain is being affected by it, which is fine. I think that's good.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for is just to pull in just a bit of the side of his face there, so that it's not so much like, oh, this effect is behind him. But once the side of his face, I mean, it could even come down to like the feather that I have on this is, doing. Oh, it didn't really help anything. Does this change anything? Okay, there you go. Maybe it was the solid composite. No, turbulent displace. Which one did it? The blur? Nah, one of these things did it. Oh, now he kind of looks like a pharaoh. Spider-Man. Let's see what we got. This is not at all how I intended this to go. I'm like, let's just dive in here. I'm going to have this cool Spider-sense thing happening. No, I'm going to spend 40 minutes messing with radio waves and chromatic displacement and get a jellyfish head.
Welcome to VFX and Chill, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty much how we go, we roll.
I can kind of show my results if people really want to see them. I think I've gotten to somewhere cool. I think that works, right?
Everything it needed to be.
The end.
Now, Doug, if people wanted to connect with you on socials, you are the Dougosaurus on Instagram and Dougosaurus on Twitter, yes?
Yes. Someone got to Dougosaurus before me on Instagram. It's very upsetting. So I'm the Dougosaurus, just to stick it to them. And
I'm the Seth Worley for that very reason.
There you go. I mean, my website is douglasappleton.com because someone has dougappleton.com. And then they're sitting on it. And I saw, I went back like a month after looking for it, and the price went up because I guess they saw that I went to check it out.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I will not buy that just out of spite. I'll be Douglas. I'll sound like a real professional and be Douglas Appleton instead. That's fine.
Well, for those who are interested in how to spell Dougosaurus, the links to his social media profiles are in the chat.
It is spelled as it sounds with 2 T's and a K.
So there you go.
No, it's just Dougosaurus.
Yes, but Doug like the name, not like
yes, like the name
pile.
Doug. Yes, not like digging in a pile of dirt. All right, what am I doing here? I need something more. So I have the Brooklyn Bridge thing. Let's do. You know what? I'm gonna scale this down.
Now, I will say, just for the benefit of those watching, if you were doing this sort of effect in a real film, you might want to skip the chromatic displacement effect here, and so since you're probably going to be compositing a bunch of other stuff, you can actually use just that radio waves layer as a displacement layer inside SuperComp to have a whole bunch of stuff all meshed together at once for you as well. With light wrap and other blurs and things happening kind of all on top of each other. It's a good way to go. Justin Lidich is asking, is it true that if they sleep under a 5G tower, they'll develop spider senses? Please help. This is urgent.
I don't know if it's spider sense or if it's just caller ID. I'm not sure.
You just know if it's a spam caller when it rings.
Yeah. I think you just get to oh, this is not a Nigerian prince.
Oh, that's looking good. That's looking good.
There you go. There's my...
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then, you know what else we're going to throw? Let's throw another thing on here. And we'll throw on... let's do an optics compensation. And okay, there you go. Something like that. And we will animate that thing to be even crazier.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Let's do a Spider-sense like this. And I want you faster. And because nuance is dead, let's pull it all the way to 100. I don't have time for nuance. Okay. How do you look, Spidey? It's whoa. That's kind of cool. Like pulls them off of it a little bit.
I'm liking that. It's got
like
that sort of Hitchcock zoom, dolly zoom thing going on there.
Yeah, I think the radio waves need to be more like coming in probably here.
Overlapping action. Yes.
Right there, perfect. Right there on that weird face.
Seth, I don't know if you've got an eye on Slack, but there's an excellent. Anyway, Nick Smith, what you missed was the chief creative director from Perception, Doug Appleton, was talking through their creation of the end titles for the Spider-Man 2 video game, out now on PlayStation 5. Gorgeous title sequence with lots of interesting discussion about it. And after we concluded that lovely chat, we have moved on to making our own Spider-senses in less of a cartoon stylized way and more of a, like if they decided to make that sort of cartoon stylized version of a Spidey-sense happen in a live action film. We got 5 minutes to polish up our things.
Yeah. 5 minutes to polish this.
I think this is
there we
polished.
go. Doug, look. It's apparently rigged with plenty of bones, so it can dance.
Oh, I've never been happier.
I gotta say, putting turbulent displays on radio waves is maybe the coolest thing you can do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Look at that. That is very rad.
I was about to do some lines coming out of my thing too, but you know what?
No. I was using it to try and actually distort the lines that I had. I was trying to make. Yeah, I got in the weeds here. Also, I got distracted by this important work.
Guys,
it's always smart. Wait, when did you save it at all? Is this all in an untitled
it's all
unsaved?
AE template converted.aep is what this one is.
Oh, hey, I should say, folks, if you have a starter scene that you kind of like to begin from, there's 2 things you can do. There that is, Doug, for your viewing pleasure. And it roars!
I was hoping.
It roars. Oh, excellent. But anyway, there's 2 things you can do. One is you can change the extension of your template project to .aet. That is T as in Tango, as opposed to AEP as in Papa. And that means every time you open that project, it will open it as an unsaved thing. And when you hit save, it will prompt you to give it a new name, so you won't accidentally save up your template project, 1. But 2, in your After Effects preferences, you can say, hey, every time I start a new project in After Effects, I want it to be based on this template. So you can actually have your thing pop up all the time. So for example, a lot of the stuff I do for Red Giant, I use Particular, and I don't want to make a solid and apply Particular and then wait for After Effects to index all Particular's properties. So I have a template project. As soon as I say, hey, new project in After Effects, I have my folder structure that I like to have, my Solids folder, and my assets folder and everything, and a project at the size, a composite the size I need with a solid layer with Particular already applied. So I'm ready to go with my particle fun without having to do anything.
Nice. Yeah, I have a template that just has like a default folder structure that's like final comps, pre-comps, assets, solids, and that's usually how I start. And then in assets,
do you have your solids folder named solids or zalids or zolids? Because I name it zolids, so it sorts to the bottom of my comp stack.
Oh, I just do a number or an underscore before something that I want to order at the top or bottom of a stack. But that's smart, Michael.
It's just a fun, easy way. You don't have to deal with number prefixes, whatever. Because I don't. A lot of the stuff I do for Red Giant isn't all that complex. It's my side jobs tend to get complex, and I have more involved stuff for that. But for just
what about your new job at Perception full time?
I'll do whatever they tell me. What makes the clients happy. Michael Powlek in the chat says Seth's squiggles are making their Keith Haring senses tingle.
Yes, 100% that was. It's 1:59, and I've got nothing to really show for it. How about you, Doug?
I got a little something to show for it. Let me just throw a repeater on here real quick on my shape layers. I wanted to make little squiggles too. Let me share my screen. All right. And rotation. Yeah, rotate around. How many copies do I want? That's too many copies. 10 copies? Also my anchor point. Move anchor point. Where are you?
Ooh, that's a pretty feather.
Yeah, right? That's
wing thing. Feather wing thing.
Spidey feather. All right, not wiggle. Repeater. Where'd you go? Where is my anchor point? Why can't I see it? Just now it's just gonna be guesswork. I don't know what happened to it.
That looks so cool, though.
Do something like this and like that.
You don't have your properties panel pulled up easily visible in this layout. I wonder how. I haven't messed with repeaters to see how easily upable they are on the properties panel. Oh, I see it down there at the bottom of your panel stack. It's a weird layout for a small screen. Someone needs to talk to Adobe about that setup.
Yeah, this is just the. Oh yeah, it's down there. Properties. Oops.
Because you've got your shape layer stuff there, so you keep going down.
Yeah. Oh,
like if I were designing a small screen interface, I would make mostly to be just the properties panel because it pops up all the things you need. Like when you have a text layer up, it gives you a text option. When you have a shape layer up, it gives you your shape options.
And it is possible that over the years, at some point, I ruined the default small screen layout. That's very possible.
Like it's got all your line cap options, like right there. You don't have to.
Yeah. No, that like if I use that all the time, I'd be like, shape layers, come on, let's do it.
Do you not use Quick Menu or FX Console? Do you always go into the Effects and Presets panel to pull out your things?
I do. It's just like, I've been using After Effects for a long time. Before those things were around, so it's all force of habit. Like, I always go, oh, look, I've made it worse.
Oh, I do want to point out, for those who didn't notice what he just did, hitting the Tab key gives you a little tiny flowchart view of what your comp is that you're in relation to other comps. So if you want to just jump into a pre-comp or jump back out, it's a real easy way to breadcrumb your way without having to pull up the full flowchart. It's just a handy little mini flowchart. It makes it easier to navigate back up through your whole comp.
Yeah, so I hit Tab, or if you hit this guy right here. So I kind of.
There you go. Yet another handy After Effects tip.
There you go. Another one.
Tip.
I
like those little shape things added in there. It adds nice complexity.
Yeah, it's not really coming through on the final effect.
If you mess with opacities, it would, but we are getting rapidly close to the end of our show, and by that I mean we are slightly over time.
Slightly over time. We are slightly over time. We should probably wrap it up, huh?
I mean, you say that, but I'm enjoying this spiderweb looking art that we've got going on.
I'm gonna.
The Spidey-sense is gonna be a spider web. Amazing.
Yeah, I'll be here all day. I'm just doing this. I want to add to this. I don't know what I want to add to this. I'm going to soft light, and then I'm going to unmold that guy. And there you go. That's all I got. So kind of spiderweb. That's not exactly.
It's not what you meant, but I think it's fantastic. I love
not
that.
Not at all what I meant. Whoa! All right. Well, you guys just tell me when to stop.
No, never stop.
And look, and then let's do my quick life hack is a Lumetri color, and then you just pick like a Kodak film. Boom. Done. And now I find like which one did I want? I never remember which one.
This is one of the things I really like about Magic Bullet Looks is you can visually browse your LUTs, which is way better than trying to pick it from a text list. If you want to just make a really cool blockbustery thing, you can just throw Mojo on it too.
Nope, now it's thinking. Now it's thinking too hard.
Uh-oh. You never want After Effects to start thinking.
Yeah, but those who don't know, if you go over to the tools on the right-hand side there and drop a LUT on your image, the LUT tool should be under color correction, I believe.
Hit me up with that.
Yep, there's the LUT right there. So if you'll click on it, the tool, and it will load up your LUTs in that right-hand side there, assuming your GPU is awake. And you can visually browse the 24 LUTs that come pre-loaded with it. You can see quick little thumbnails of what it's going to look like. But you can also load in your own LUTs into that list with like folders and crap. You see right there, he's added a custom one. So, hey, Doug, if you right-click on that and say, hey, show an explorer, whatever you put in this folder structure there will then become a folder structure in your LUTs viewer. So you can have your, whatever kind of looks you want going on and visually see what it's going to look like instead of having to scroll through a text list. It's one of my favorite features in Looks, which is a very long list because I love so much about Magic Bullet Looks.
Yeah, Looks is great. I find it sometimes to be overwhelming with just like all of this, which is, it's good to have more than less, right? But every time I go in here, I'm like, oh, there was one I really liked, but I don't remember what it was called.
You can set things as favorites, so you don't have to do that again.
But then I usually find something like, let's say this one. Oh, I like the way this one looks, and then I'll go into like the colorist and start adjusting and tweaking stuff.
Which is perfect. Exactly what it's for. It's not a black box of just here's a look. Like here's a look and all of the settings, and you can then tweak to your heart's content.
Yeah. But before I got Looks, I would use Lumetri color, which I also find to be great. I really like on this, let's say the curves and going in and being like, oh, you know what? I don't like the red on Spider-Man's suit, so let's make that more like green or whatever. And so you can go through and pinpoint stuff. So I like that part of it. It seems pretty powerful.
Absolutely. All right. I guess we should wrap up the show. I got nowhere. Sorry, I got quiet. I was trying to actually do something here, and
well, you got the watch out in there.
I tried to. It's not looking very good. It's a
good start,
but it's meant to get that Scott Pilgrim-y, filmy look with the squiggles that I'm not really happy with, and I didn't really add the effect to yet. But I like yours better, Doug.
So I think at the end of the day, we both ended up somewhere we're not too happy with.
Amen. And guys, that's what life is about here on VFX and Chill.